At home. It's with great privilege and pleasure that I sit before you today on this Wednesday, August 16th, for our budget workshop. And the time is now 10 a.m. and this meeting is, I'll now call this meeting to order. So we'll start with the invocation by Miss Diana.
Actually, we have, Mr. Kimberly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pastor David Kimberly, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Miss Moran.
Ms. Mayor, may I take a point of privilege for just a few moments, please?
Yes, sir.
As I look at Scripture and as I look at who we are as a community, I find that God's Word tells us that people are very important. And that means that there has to be a relationship and a working and an understanding and a respect for one another. We can try by our position to demand that respect, but oftentimes it falls by the wayside. Respect comes by earning it, by being considerate, by understanding that people have feelings and they're not to be torn apart by each other. That not only happens in government like our national government, state government, city government, but it happens in churches regardless of denomination because we forget who we are. I've come to the conclusion in my life as an adult, but as a human being, because when I got up this morning, just like everybody in this room, I put my britches on one leg at a time. I'm very human. I make my mistakes like everybody else does. But I found something that has been a source of strength for me that helps me to respect other people because of the fact that what God gives me, and that's grace. Grace that is greater than our sin. We have to come to the conclusion that as human beings, we make mistakes and we're sinners. We separate ourselves from God, and when we separate ourselves from God, we're often separated from each other, and it becomes us, me, and my agenda, and the rest of the world can just pass by. But God's Word says that the very basis of that relationship is a four-letter word. Most of us know that word. It's spelled L-O-V-E. We use that word just like throwing pennies and change around and dollar bills. We love hamburgers. What's the difference of loving a hamburger than loving God? There's a lot of difference. But you see, God's love penetrates who we are to help us understand that we not just simply have feelings, but we're to respect each other because we respect who He is. That comes with a realization that the person sitting next to me or in the audience or where we are is just as important as I am. My agenda really doesn't matter this morning. What matters is what you as a group of folks are able to accomplish for the benefit of this city that will take the place of dealing with our state as well as our nation. Folks, if we're going to be a people, then we have to pull together in a love for each other and a respect for one another. I draw that not from anything that I said, but what Jesus said. He said, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life." And then He commissions people like myself, like yourself. And one of those men He commissioned was the Apostle Paul, and he wrote these words: "Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails." I've raised 2 children and have had the opportunity to not be sometimes well liked by my kids, as all of you as adults know, with your children. Sometimes children just don't like you because you make them mind. But I still have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to be a dad. Even though they're grown, I am to love them. But not only am I to love them, I'm to respect the fact that they're an adult, and I'm to treat them as an adult. I believe that's what God did with us in Jesus, to treat us as adults. So if He does that to us, should we not do that to one another? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, You are the God that created heaven and earth. You are the Lord that touches the lives of every man, woman in this room and their families. They are important because, Lord, you put them here in a place to help this city come to a realization that we're in trouble, we need help. But Father, our wisdom is not enough. We need your wisdom based on your love given to us through Jesus. Father, today as these folks work towards goals for this city, may they keep in mind that those goals can be changed by you. If we see that, Father, they're more selfish than they are to help others to draw closer to you and to draw closer to one another, and us be a better community, a stronger community, a family-oriented community, a safer community. Father, I pray for our police officers. I pray for all of our first responders. I pray for each one that works in this building, our mayor, our city council, for their families, for each person here this morning, that your spirit would fall fresh upon each one of us, and that, God, that you would bless your name. Keep us in you and help us to remember that you made us in your image and that we're to love you and we're to love one another. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. Thank you, City Council. God bless you all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so much. Agenda item number 2, citizen comments. And at this time, it looks like we have no citizen comments. And public announcements. Ms. Moran, do you have anything?
Yes, I'd just like to say a few comments about the occurrence in Charlottesville over the weekend. Our hearts go out to the city and citizens of Charlottesville. And I just want to remind all of us that there is no room for racism and bigotry. And that, like Pastor said, we must all love one another and treat each other with respect. This week, as we go through our budget, we have some very tough decisions to make, but we owe a responsibility to our citizens and our employees, and each one of us brings the strength to the table, and we're going to work really hard to come up with a budget that will help us with the goals that we set out over the weekend. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Moran. Mr. Crisp? Ms. Garza?
No.
Ms. Carrasco? Okay, thank you. So at this time, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, review and discussion of 2016-2017 fiscal year revised city budget and 2017 and 2018 fiscal year proposed City of Alice budget.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today we'll be meeting with utilities, which encompasses utility billing, metering, the water plant, the wastewater plant, and special projects, maintenance and construction. Also with the police department and with the fire department. If there are no objections from council, I'd like to start with the utility fund. That is going to be found in your budget book under tab number 3. This is an enterprise fund, and as we've said before, enterprise funds generate their revenue from the services that we provide. This particular fund is doing well. It has a healthy fund balance, and despite the challenges that we have faced with cuts in staff, we are still maintaining the services to our citizens. This particular department would have a large amount of input when it came to infrastructure, which is one of the goals that council listed at our workshop on Saturday. What I'd like to do is perhaps take them department by department and have an opportunity for council to meet with them and determine any questions that they may have, any concerns that they'd like to bring forward. The only thing that I would ask council is to please, if there's something that they have a concern of that doesn't deal with budget, if they could just bring that to my attention at a later date in order to focus on what we need to focus on today. If you'll turn to page 109 in the budget book, we'll begin with utility billing and collections. Utility and billing collections is under the finance department. This department, in addition with utility metering, are the individuals who collect and bill for water, wastewater, and sanitation use. Ms. Maricela Saenz is the supervisor over utility billing, and Mr. Cesar Martinez is our supervisor over metering. If I could have them step up to the table, we can go, we can start the discussions.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Beginning on page 110 is where you are going to see the proposed budget for utility billing. And it's the same format for every department. And since this is the first department that we are meeting with, I want to walk you all through it. All of the last four digits of, for example, you'll see 5220. So 5220 is the department. And then you'll see a 00 and four-digit number, which is an object code. All the 5100s deal with personnel services, and it's going to be the first thing in every budget. The page before this is going to list the number of positions and the salaries for those positions. You will notice that in this department alone, there has been a reduction of $7,337 in personnel expenses. We are proposing a reduction to our health benefits, and that's where that savings is coming from. For the utility billing department, there are no plans for changes on the number of staff. It'll remain staffed at the level that it has been. The next section are going to be your 5200s, and these are materials and supplies. This is everything from office supplies, wearing apparel, printing, postage, operating, things of that nature. As you move across in your budget, you're going to see 2016 actual as your first column. What that means is that is the actual expense that hit the books in 2016. The next column is 2017 adopted, which means when we adopted our 2017 budget, these are the numbers that were adopted. The next one is going to be amended, so that if there were any amendments to the budget, they would be in this column. Then you will have the revised. Revised is what we are anticipating this particular department and line item to need to carry us through September 30th. And then the last item is going to be your requested, and that's the proposed budget for 18. Your last column in your budget is your dollar change, a plus or minus. If you see something in parentheses, that means that it is a reduction. If it is a positive number, it means that it is an increase. That dollar change is between amended and requested. We have Mr. Ramos, who is very experienced with utilities, with his experience in his prior city, is at this time evaluating the department as a whole. We have been able to identify some areas that we are going to be expanding and improving on. As most of you all are aware, this particular department is kind of our central collections department as well. Any department that is receiving revenue does take the money over to utility billing, and their central cashier is the individual who's responsible for ensuring that the monies are accounted for and that they are deposited into the appropriate account. I'd like to get some feedback from council on how they'd like to propose this, if you want to go one at a time with questions, or would you like to go line item by line item? What do you all feel would be in the best interest of the process?
Personally, I think a line item by line item, and then at the end, come back for the questions.
Would you like to identify only line items that have a change, or do you want to go one at a time?
No, I think each one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So,
But I think if we have questions during that, I think
maybe
it'd be
by
better
that section we
by
can
that
stop.
section. Yeah, that way we don't.
Okay, so personnel, 5100 is going to be salaries and wages, and salary and wages are base salaries. any types of stipends, and in this particular department, there is not. We are proposing or requesting 176,259, which is exactly what is in the amended budget. Revised, we're thinking we're going to need 154,233. The first question that's going to come to your mind is, why is the revised different from the requested? And that is because for a good period of time, there was a CSR that we were utilizing in another department, and we had salary savings there. The next line item, 5110, is overtime. They're requesting $1,000 for 18, and amended, they had asked for 8,100. Revised, we're at 8,198. The next question I'm sure you're going to have is, why such a drastic difference? Overtime was being incurred because they were short the one person who was assisting in another department. Now that they are all fully staffed, we don't anticipate that as being the case anymore. They have been able to catch up with a lot of things, even facing the challenges we've had with our system upgrade. And they are comfortable with $1,000 in overtime for the year. The good thing about budgets is that they're breathing documents, and as we monitor our budgets very carefully, if we determine that there needs to be some focus on how much overtime is being expensed, then we will certainly look at that and cost analysis it and weigh the benefit of it. 5111 is extra help, and there is no temporaries for this department. 5120 is something called salary reserve, retention incentive. That's something that's not budgeted for any department at this time. 5130 is FICA, and that's the city's portion of our cost for Social Security. It's 6.20, and that's based on 5100. 5140 is health and life insurance, and that's for the number of budgeted positions. 5150 is TMRS, and that is the city calculating their portion of what it's going to cost to carry retirement for the personnel in that department. And the last section of this is 5170, which is workers' comp, and again, that's calculated based on the salaries. Overall, there is a reduction from amended 17 to proposed 18 of $7,337.
I do have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Work comp is based on exposure, and we have the same budgeted for the amended budget as we do for the requested budget, yet our work comp has gone up.
Yes. Part of that has to do with, so when workers' comp is rated, there are several factors that are taken into consideration. Number one, each position is given a code that has a risk factor associated with it. For this particular budget, it's 8810, which is clerical. These individuals do only clerical work, and it's a low exposure code. With the other positions, for example, fire and police, they're rated higher because the risk is higher with those types of positions. When we receive our rating from workers' comp, there are several things that are taken into account. And if, for example, one division has had an increase in exposure, that's taken and spread across the departments as a whole. And that's why you're seeing the increase. It's also based on wages, so it's very possible that because that position wasn't there and we weren't paying for the position out of utility billing, but it was being part of the general fund. When workers' comp comes in when TML comes in to audit, we are estimating what those payrolls are, and if there was a difference of variance, either above or below, we'll have to make up that difference the following year.
So just to clarify, were you finished with that?
Yep.
Okay. So just to clarify on the CSR position, are we going to have that person solely for utilities?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's where the 22,026 is coming from? The increase from the revised to the requested?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Yeah,
Okay.
there was a salary savings we didn't use. The position was never unfunded, but we do need that fifth person in that department.
Okay. So they will be totally devoted to them.
6. With you, it's 6.
With, because it's 5 cashiers. Oh, hold on. Let me see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 6 cashiers. 6 of them, and then myself.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
7.
It will be 6 that are devoted fully to utility billing plus the supervisor, 7 total in the department.
So we had been short the 1.
So CSR is going to be 6?
Correct.
Okay. Because we have it on here as 5.
And-
Well, it's 5 CSRs and 1 lead CSR, so
Gotcha.
there's 6.
Okay.
And where will we see the differential for that when we move them over?
Say again, Mr. Crisp, I'm sorry.
Where will we see that differential, that 22, when you said that there was some savings there because they're working in another department? What department will we see that?
You'll see that hit finance.
Finance, okay.
Okay.
So for the understanding of the council, when we were facing the challenges that we were facing last year, one of the first things we did was evaluate skill sets throughout every department to determine is there anybody who can help alleviate. We did have an individual who was a degreed accountant and had municipal accounting experience. So that individual is Ms. Terry right over there. We moved her to the finance department to help catch up with what we needed to, and we've determined that she's a good fit there, and it's in the best interest of the city as a whole to keep that position in finance.
So where are we grabbing this person for CSR?
Excuse me?
If she's going to stay, because she went from utility billing to finance, and
Yes.
so where are we getting this person from? Because she's going to
The-
stay.
Her position was actually transferred in, when did you formally go to finance? November of 16. So we've advertised and we have filled that position since then.
Okay. The CSR one.
Yes, ma'am, the CSR position.
Okay. So we're not going to lack anywhere else.
No,
For
ma'am.
this, okay.
In utility billing, no.
Okay.
Mrs. Lopez,
Yes, ma'am.
on the employee health and life insurance, we're seeing that a reduction. That's because we are renegotiating. Okay. And
Yes, ma'am.
That's why
So,
we're seeing
and
that savings.
you're going to see that savings throughout the budget. And what we did is we took an estimate of what we felt was appropriate. Number one, to fund our medical. And since we had renewal rates already for dental, life, and vision, we've left those renewal rates in there, but there is a big possibility that when the bids come in next Friday, they may be under that. And once we have that and we award those contracts, we will know exactly what's going to be the true savings to that particular line item citywide.
Any other questions, council, on personnel? Okay. So we can move on to materials and supplies.
Materials and supplies. 5,200 is a big one that you're going to see because that is where all of our office supplies hit. For 16 actual, they had 898. At revised, they're asking for 770, and they are requesting $900. It's a $2 difference between what was an actual 16 and what is requested in 18. But a $100 difference between amended and requested. So as departments sit with finance, they know that if there's a big expense that's coming, they'll come in with their quotes ahead of time and let them know I'm going to need X additional dollars in my budget for this one-time purchase. The other thing that finance does is that we look at history. What has actually hit those budgets historically, and where is a good number to try and find a happy medium? In this instance, office supplies for them would be your usual.
Double-sided tape, the receipt printer tape, pens, paper clips,
Okay.
stampers for the department, the ones that say for deposit only, those kind of things.
And the majority of that is going to be your tape.
majority
Utility
is the
billing
tape.
does use a special type of tape in their calculators. It is a duplicate tape. So that's probably the majority of that expense. 5220 is wearing apparel, and one of the changes that was made to the utility department is that we no longer rent their uniforms through Brightstar. What we have done is we have purchased 5 shirts. Maricela's wearing the one that's worn on Wednesdays. All the girls are in the same shirts. They launder them, they take care of them, and there's no needed expense for the rental. Requested is $350, and I'm assuming that's in there in the event that we need to replace a shirt or for a new employee?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it one shirt?
No, ma'am, it's 5 shirts,
It's
one per
actually,
day.
it's four shirts, Monday through Thursday.
I wonder, because that's usually an expense that a lot of companies cut, you know, in times like this. Instead of supplying like the 4, you go to a 2 or a 3.
We were actually supplying 11, and we went to 4.
You went to 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that might be something to think about if we're doing this across the board as a city.
We are.
Because that would be a huge expense.
It was one of the first things that they did last year. We cut a lot of our, except for those individuals who are in the field, because they need to be easily identified, and they're dirty jobs. They have kept their uniforms, but any other department was one of the first things that we cut. In addition to any types of mats that had logos on them, we replaced with just generic cleaning mats. Finance, you might have to help me here.
We cut other contracts like the tire service, the tire service contract that we cut.
Okay, but uniform-wise?
Pants and tops for UV. I know PD cut theirs also.
PD, municipal court, the library, any department that was in a uniform. We either cut the uniform and put them in just appropriate dress attire, or the departments invested in buying shirts that were durable and were going to last, just to maintain that continuity of everyone being dressed appropriately.
And I totally agree. But if we're still crunching to balance the budget, I would like this to be looked at, you know, across the board, not just their department, but across the board. And I bet we're going to find a good chunk of money there, where we don't completely eliminate, but minimize the amount of. Do we launder? I know not this department, but do we launder for anybody, like send to the cleaners and they pick them up? And
the Brightstar contract, the way it works for individuals in the field, they are issued 11 shirts, 11 pants. They are picked up once a week. They are laundered. The employee pays for half of that cost, and the city pays for the other half of that cost. Those departments right now are probably those that are in the field: street, sanitation, landfill, maintenance and construction, water, wastewater, and metering. Because they're in environments where, you know, sometimes sewer water, you know, things of that nature, we've always felt it would be in our best interest to send them to a facility that can properly clean them and disinfect them, and not put, you know, that type of clothing with the normal clothing in the wash. Other than that, all other departments were cut. We've done our best, but we can certainly see if there's anybody left.
because right there from 11, you could possibly go to 7, and that would cut.
Let's see, we're actually at 350 is what they're requesting for 18.
Oh, I was saying for I guess the other department, you said there was 11.
Right, we issue, well, you have to remember also, these gentlemen sometimes have to change twice a day.
Correct. I know. My husband is in oil field, and they went from 14 to 4. So, I mean, you do what you got to do, and if we got to cut,
7.
that's
Okay.
something to look at to cut for now until we have that extra. But second to the last resort, right? Maybe.
We'll certainly cost it out and determine whether it's something that's feasible, number one, and number two, whether it can be done without receiving some sort of, and I'm not sure we have a contract with Brightstar, but we'll make sure there's no language that says that we're committed to a certain term or something.
Correct.
I guess my question would be as we go along through this budget process, and for staff as well, is to look at whether do the performance and service levels actually justify the budget request, or whether or not those funds could be better utilized elsewhere? So, you know, as we go along this budget, those are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves. You know,
Wearing apparel being one of them.
Does the staff and service level require uniforms and utility billing? That's just an example. Or could those funds be utilized elsewhere?
Like professional
at all,
dressed
yeah.
Monday through Thursday, and then Friday their shirts, or you know, just I mean, we're looking at different ways just to cut, and it's not
I understand.
picking on anybody's.
Right.
No,
Just
I
these are
understand what
I think they look
from-
beautiful. They're great. I would like one, but I feel that council should cut all that little budget there too. You know,
Something
Things
to
like that.
ask yourselves as we go through the budget process.
Nickels and dimes.
5290 is going to be operating supplies, and this is the majority of this materials and supplies. Maricela, if you will you explain to council what hits your operating budget?
That is our statements, our return envelopes, our regular envelopes that go out, and our postage. That is the majority of this line item, because postage alone is $4,000 a month.
Right.
And so that's where most of the money goes, and then the envelopes and the statements. They're not that cheap, and that's because I price them out, and I always get bids every year to see which one's the better price from us. We try to stay locally. We do go out of town, but I always look at that every year to see which is a cheaper way of going, because we don't always get these statements back from the individuals, because we're still handwriting a whole bunch of them.
Right.
Up to 2,000 a month that we still have to handwrite. At one point when I was keeping track of it. Right now I'm not keeping track of that anymore, but we have to handwrite a lot of them. And it's a lot to send them out because we do everything in-house. But that's the majority of this. That's where that money comes from.
Mrs. Carrasco.
Sorry. Have we ever looked into perhaps giving our customers the option to receive online, like go paperless? Is that something we've
right now they can go online and see them already on our City of Alice website. So they
We
can
can't
already
pay
go
them,
in there.
right? Or
They
we
can
can
pay them online,
So,
yes,
so
ma'am.
yeah. So can we determine like who, and then take that? Because I have a stack like that of blue envelopes.
Yes.
And it breaks my heart to throw them in the trash. I'm gonna bring them back, probably, and give them back to y'all, because
We recycle them.
Okay.
We do recycle them, the ones that don't have any marks on them. Because sometimes the other customer's information might be printed on it, so we have to look at them. And we do use them out, maybe even to give out change, things like that. Because we don't just, when they're torn up and stuff,
Right.
okay, we
The
get rid
blue
of them.
envelopes have been something of discussion for a couple of years, and
Yes.
let me explain to council how the blue envelopes came about. On average, we probably receive close to billing dates, especially close to due dates, every day in the mail, a stack of bills about this high. Okay. With that is your normal mail that's coming in, and we have one individual who sorts mail, and that's our deputy city clerk, or the city clerk, or myself. In efficiency and time, they said, well, let's find a way, instead of opening every one and determining, is this a water bill, where does it need to go, let's easily identify it, and that's where the blue envelopes came into play. It speeded up efficiency. We know these immediately go to utility billing. They can start their process, start keying in and doing what needs to be done, so that the next step can go to the meter readers and determine if anyone needs to be cut off. We have been discussing, and I think we have determined that this year they have been, and we purchased during the end of the budget year.
Right now, we have a full supply of the blue envelopes because of the way that we initially ordered them. We were already towards the end or middle of that year that it was ordered, so I always have more blue envelopes towards the end of October than anything else because of the way that it was originally ordered. So this year, I still have my whole supply of this past year's order. So this year I will not need to order the blue envelopes this year. So that'll save $3,000 from this line item.
Okay.
And that was part of what I discussed with you on Saturday, was one of the cuts that we identified immediately. It was $3,000.
Okay. Go ahead.
I guess what my question was, have we explored the option of giving our customers a way of saying, I want to go paperless, this way we don't have to mail out a bill, is kind of what I was.
It's been discussed, we just have not gone further into.
Looked into.
Yeah, but it has been discussed, it has been brought up. But since we do offer the online, we do offer them to be able to go in there, they can go in there and do it. They don't have to be set up every month to do this. They can just go in there and see how much their bill is. The whole city can, right this minute. You don't have to register to, if you just want to look in there, you have to get in there, but you don't have to make your payment there if you do not want to. You can still come into the office, but they can do that. But to go paperless and receive it electronically, with this new system upgrade, we would have to look into to see, because we're still learning, because it's been only about 3 weeks since we've been on it, and there's been a lot of obstacles that we've had to endure. So we'd have to just see and discuss it more to see if that would be the case.
I think that would be awesome, and like by poll or something, because I get drafted, so
Me too.
I'll never use that. So I wonder
Right.
what percentage of our citizens do get drafted or do pay online, and then we can eliminate probably a huge chunk of this and not mail out and not blue envelope.
Do you know historically how many are actually utilizing the bill pay and how many are drafted in comparison to how many pay?
Yeah, do we have those numbers?
I do. I had been keeping track.
I think there's like 1,400.
Wow.
Out of 7,300.
And I
Out of
get
7,300
drafted
accounts.
also for 2 accounts, my sprinkler and the regular.
You get 2 bills.
And I get 2 bills with 2
Two
blue
blue
envelopes
envelopes.
and
And
40
no-
something
I get-
cents worth of.
I get 4.
On
And
every one of
and
them.
nobody looks
So-
at those bills
Yeah.
either.
I wonder
So-
if we could tag it, Mr. Ramos, like maybe tag it on their account, like who does and who doesn't, and then that way we stop, and if it changes, they're gonna tell you, well, maybe.
I know some individuals do like to get it. Some people that are on bank draft, prime examples, but a lot of them don't even look at it. So what I do as a courtesy, I don't need to do this, but as a courtesy, I always look at my bank drafts to see if anybody's over $100. I look to see if they've ever been billed that before, and if so, I let it go through. If not, then I do try to make contact with them, because somebody who gets charged $600 and somebody who doesn't look at the bill that are in bank draft, as a courtesy, I like to call them because their bill might be $100 and they never use that, and I let them know, hey, did you use that consumption? Is there something going on? And sometimes they say, oh yeah, I just drafted. And sometimes they're like, oh no, please don't draft it. And we make an arrangement, because I can change the amount that I draft on the customer's account. But we need to look into that to see.
Yeah, just
Okay.
on
To minimize this line item, that 75,000, what is it,
75,000.
75,000?
Just on the 1,400, if you take into account
Times
that we don't
that.
have to pay stamps.
Yeah.
That's 56-ish.
45.
$4,500. Well, I'm saying $5,600.
Oh.
50, almost 58-ish $100 right off the bat.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include the envelopes, the printing, the blue envelopes, anything else. That's just the stamp.
It's going to take
savings.
initially, to do it some time, but I think in essence, it's going to be the right thing to do for the city, money-wise.
And at one point, we've also discussed maybe raising that fee, well, not raising the fee, developing a fee for individuals who do not bring their statement in, since we do have to handwrite that information and it's
Correct.
time-consuming. So we've talked about in the past, and we're talking about in the future too, maybe to do like a 50-cent
A service
charge
fee.
or a dollar fee, because I know some utilities, I don't know if they're still doing it, because I do not believe so, but example, the cable company at one time, if anybody had the cable here, you would get charged for not bringing in your bill because of the time that it takes to look it up and write it up.
Correct.
And that month that we did the 2,000, if you do 50 cents, that's 500 extra times
Yeah.
12 or whatever,
Mhm.
So every penny does count, and it is time consuming. And if you see us, I invite you guys to come into the department and see what it takes to print out the bill and to stand there.
Because you
and
have to print
do
it again when they don't bring it.
No,
No,
we write
okay,
it out.
you have to write
We
it.
write it out. Mhm,
Okay.
mhm. So it's time consuming to do so. But we do it. We do it as a courtesy, because not everybody has their bill. And we don't want to turn
Yeah.
away
But
individuals
that's a
who are making
service,
payments.
that, in essence, that's costing money when you stand there and have to do it.
Why do you have to write out a bill to Don't you just
So we
print
can
out?
take it into the system, because that's what the cashiers use at the end of the day to make sure that they balance.
You don't
That's
just
our-
print out one
No.
and then mark paid on it or enter it into
No,
the
because
system?
that would be more time consuming and more paper to waste to reprint a bill.
They
a
use these little
complete bill.
slips. It's a
We
little
just
tiny
use a
little slip of paper
There's
that
four-
there's
Like a
four-
receipt-
it's like a
receipt slip.
receipt.
Right.
4 slips per page. So it's time consuming to
I
do
don't
so.
know. I've never heard that, but
It's been-
there's two options you can do here to request individuals who do have access to email. One, you can ask them when they pay their bill, or you can certainly, there's a place where on the bill, its statement itself, you can put on there an option if they would like to receive their statements through email. And I know you obviously have to do a cost analysis, because then you'll have a person that they'll have to, enter those and email them, so.
Most importantly, we need to check system limitations
Yeah,
to
the
see
new
if it's
system, what it
something,
offers.
if it's something that
Right.
can even be offered.
Right. But certainly those are some options to consider. I mean, it's not something that you can't do as they're paying their bill. If they opt to, enter their email into the system, but yeah, first of all, we need to see, I'm not sure, we have what system are we using?
We're using Springbrook, which is now
Springbrook.
called Acela.
Acela, Springbrook. Yeah.
We've been on that since 2003.
Yes.
I've been through 3 systems.
It's been around, it replaced Encode, didn't it?
No, it replaced
Replaced Assist.
Assist?
We've never had Encode.
You've never had Encode?
Encode is used only at the police department. The city has never had Encode.
It's a good program.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hamilton,
Should
will we,
look at-
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I need to look at the online portal, because there's also, and I don't know if this one allows you to or not, but there's the ability to do mass media, either through text message, through email, and that will allow to all the customers, or anybody actually who signs up. You don't have to be an online payment customer. It's just part of the website also, where it'll allow you to do mass media either through text, and this is for emergency services also, or email. And then you can send a message to everybody stating, do you want to do online, do you want to do electronic paperless statements and so forth. So I need to look at that. I don't know if this particular portal will allow you to do that or not.
My math was wrong. I was doing it at $1,200. It's $1,400. It's actually $7,500 a year in savings just in stamps on those
Wow.
$1,400 that we don't
On
allow.
just those, yeah.
I encourage that.
Potential, yeah, so I really think we should definitely look into that, because that's savings that'll carry on forever.
And it's the
no-
way to go anymore.
So-
I mean, we're staying behind by still doing these things that other cities would laugh at. Mr. Hamilton, too, when we spoke with Wells Fargo, that could help us, right, with setting up that system where we can, what did y'all talk about, you and that
There's
gentleman?
the
About paying with your debit or
pay by phone.
Pay by
To be able
phone,
to pay by
yes.
phone is one, and then we were going to look at or revisit the credit card transactions.
right.
And do an analysis on that and see if there's a savings there, where you brought up the point where there was several credit card transactions, and the fees are pretty high.
Fees are crazy.
Merchant fees.
Merchant fees, we get charged for each transaction, and I don't think we've have we revisited those lately?
And the
So-
customers don't get charged for
I
that.
did pull those numbers, Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and from October through June, the bank charges were only about 14,000, but the credit card charges were about 50,000.
Yikes.
Definitely got to review that.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
And I have an idea on there also, and there's other merchants that do it also, just to do a comparative
Exactly.
analysis and
Yeah.
figure out, if we can have some savings there.
And we can bid that out because so many people are doing that anymore, and they're competitive. So I would encourage that to be on a to-do, after
Yes.
budget.
Yes.
And we might be able to cut this because, the pay by phone, the credit card, the pay online, the automatic bank drafts. I think when we narrow down that number to the actual people that do have to come pay or do have to send it, you're probably going to be pleasantly surprised that it's not that many that do that anymore.
Right.
But I mean, we'll still have to offer that to those people, but a lot probably
And
don't.
by the same token, it'll cut down on the traffic that comes in.
Absolutely.
How
And just put it out there that this is what we're doing now, and we encourage our citizens to use this route.
Yeah. And we should always remain innovative as we're moving into the 21st
That's
century.
right.
Technology is of utmost important, not only for working smarter, not harder, but offering those benefits to our citizens as well.
Yep.
The other day, y'all said it was something like 7,200,
7,300,
7,300,
Accounts.
okay.
and that fluctuates every month when people close out the accounts.
That's-
But that's average.
Is this including the counties as well?
No,
or just
that's
the-
a little bit more. This is like the water accounts. The county is a little bit different
How
because it's
many
garbage
accounts?
only. It would bring it up to maybe like 76,
76?
77, 76, 77. Again, those numbers change too because they're constantly closing out the accounts, things like
Mhm.
that. So that fluctuates.
72 is Alice.
And we do get a lot of requests from the customers if they can pay by phone. And that number has been increasing lately, these past couple months, if they can pay it. And we always offer where you can pay online, but a lot of them do want to pay by phone.
Right.
And right now, we're just not set up for that, so, but we had already been talking about it
Yeah.
since the short time that he's already been here.
I know. We bombarded it. Very good.
Just so that I understand it, this is an increase of $10,000?
It is an increase from amended, where the 2017 amended 65,000 to the requested 75,000. The revised right now is at 70,812.
So it should be going
And
down.
then minus, and then
Yeah.
minus the 3,000.
So you're asking, your adopted 2017 was 65, you're asking for 75,000?
This postage is, it's not lasting like it used to.
I'm
It's
sorry,
not-
the what?
The postage.
The-
She said the
that-
postage, I have some notes. You're paying
It's-
about 4,700 for postage a month. And then we did add some accounts for the county, the billing. That increased. So that
So that
increased
postage
cost.
was-
So that's a cost for them. And then she had the white window envelopes, about 500 a box. I don't know how many times you order those.
That was new this year, because
Okay.
before we'd always get it from finance.
Do we know how many people actually mail in their payment?
Yes.
Because
We-
technically, the only people that need an envelope are the people who mail in their payment.
We were keeping track at one time, when, back in the day with one of the city managers, but we're not keeping track anymore, and since we're now shredding the envelopes, I can't even tell you, we'd have to count it before we,
We'll just have to figure out how to.
Yeah.
But with the new system, there might be a way, a lot of them are in there now, is the type of payment, whether it was, you know,
Track it.
in-house,
Yep.
you know, by phone, when that becomes an option, draft or mail in.
Yeah.
So that might be something too, you know, when they're processing payments, if it's as simple as adding one more toggle, yes, it's, you know, it all comes down to clicks when you talk about people's time. But, you know, to measure the effectiveness of certain things, it might be beneficial to add something like that if it's possible. Again, limitations of the new system, but something to look at.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just wondering if this is the best way to achieve our stated objective. And I highly encourage staff to look at doing away with as much postage and envelopes as possible and ask the question, is this the best way to achieve our objective?
So you made a statement that you've increased this portion here, the operating supplies, because of the addition of the county. Now, is that still our revenue, or is that revenue that we end up having to pay?
That revenue does go into the utility fund.
Okay.
So we do bill them $5 per customer that we generate a bill for.
Okay.
And we bill them monthly?
Yes.
Okay. And we receive the money monthly?
It depends, it's just how they come in and pay, so.
Well, but you,
We
for
do
clarification, it's taken off the top. So
Yes.
before the check is cut to the county, the city is keeping their portion for what we've already expensed.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So we do get our money monthly.
Yes, ma'am. There we do.
Okay.
There is a difference in the revised from the amended budget to 70,812. What is the reason we're having to add this
It's
cost?
still the postage.
Still-
It's still the postage, because we still needed enough to cover us to the end of September 30th. And then we normally order our, the statements and the envelopes during this time also. So we needed to have the increase. We normally always do it around the end of September, October timeframe, so we need to make sure that we have that money in our budget line.
Marisela, when did the county institute their program with us?
December 2016?
So it wouldn't have been taken into account with the first amendments that were done in January, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Because we had no idea. We were getting the information in stacks. We had no idea how much time it was going to take. It's been a learning experience to include that because it is time consuming to input this information into the system.
That makes sense.
So we just have history of 1 year, basically?
Not even 1 year.
Not
8
even.
months.
Not
Have
even.
a few months.
So do we need that 5,000, you think?
To get us through the end of the year,
Yes.
that's what
Yes,
she's
we do.
anticipating, based on the number of accounts that are active right now, yes.
Which includes the counties that
Right.
came in. Gotcha.
Okay. Well, maybe we can prioritize looking at these other more innovative methods to
Right.
paying a bill.
5295, you'll notice that there hasn't been anything there. Marisela, you're requesting $700 for small tools. Do you
We
know
need-
right offhand?
We need the receipt printers.
There you go.
We need receipt printers because right now on the front counter, I don't know if anybody's coming to pay their bill. We're sharing one receipt printer, and there's 3 stations there. So that's not working smart. So that's just not, it's not helping us. We need the individual printers so we can take the payments right there and then just get it and take it. Not wait on the cashier over here, oh, can you give me the receipt and let me give it to the customer. It doesn't, you know, we're the city of Alice, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't look like that for our customers. It should be a fast, just take the payment, take it, tear it off and give it to them. So we need 2 printers.
That's for 2 receipt printers
Well,
or 3?
this one's 1 for this year because it's usually around anywhere from 500 to 700. Jim is helping me look to see if he can find anything on Amazon, things like that, to see if it can get it cheaper.
Don't the systems have an option, though, to either print off a receipt printer or on your actual printers?
These are the
Most
receipt printers for
registers.
credit cards?
For the PO.
Or are
No,
these
no,
the
they're
receipt
just the
printers?
This one
receipt
is the
itself.
receipt itself for the customer.
Most
It's
credit card-
these are specialized receipt printers, though. They're
Right, I
tied into
understand.
the Springbrook
To
system.
Springbrook.
Right.
Maricela, you never had one?
No, we have.
But
They've
it's
just
just
been,
one.
they've
Sharing.
been broken.
Mhm.
We've wore and tore into it, and we have not replaced it.
They last how long, hon? Like years or a year or 2 years, 3
The ones
years?
that we've had have been years. I can't tell you the exact time frame of them, but they've been years.
Yeah, 'cause
They're
usually
almost
receipt
obsolete.
printers
They're
last.
almost obsolete. We even borrowed 2 from, well, not borrowed, they gave me 2 from a different department since they were going to a different system. So we even used them, but they were used, and now those don't work. They were real tiny and real loud, but they don't work anymore.
Are they
so.
heat or impact?
They're
For carbon?
thermal. No,
They're-
they're impact.
They're
They're
impact.
impact.
'Cause
The
they're
credit card-
carbon, right?
Credit card is thermal. They're not carbon. We don't use carbon for the
Okay.
receipt. So those are impact. The credit cards are thermal.
Okay.
I mean, for example, most cash handling devices that are on a financial software program, if you go to devices and printers, you can select to use the paper. You might want to look at that. And where you either use,
Central office does do that, but it's wasting an entire sheet
yeah.
of paper,
Of paper.
of your normal paper.
So
So that's how she
have we
uses it.
analyzed the costs on what it costs? Thermal paper is very expensive.
This one's not
It's
thermal
not
paper.
thermal.
This
Do
is not
we-
thermal.
Standard.
It's just regular.
It's standard.
It's impact.
Yes.
Do we belong to a state purchasing co-op where we purchase some of these supplies, Ms. Lopez?
We do buy, I mean, we do order from Staples and we do get discounts, and then Staples is a member of
A Buy Board
Buy Board,
vendor.
and Buy
Yeah,
Board
we do use
does
Buy Board.
kind of send you money as, you know.
They quarterly send you any savings.
So they're part of the state purchasing program?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. Council, any other questions on this? No? Okay, can we move on to purchase property services?
This is going to be all of your utilities, vehicle repair, maintenance, equipment. The biggest line item is going to be equipment hire and rentals, which is $54.30. And if I'm not mistaken, these are copier leases. Vanessa?
Yes.
Only copier leases or?
Where's the stuffing machine in there?
Oh,
The sorting machine, the nail post? The maintenance.
While she's looking at that, I just want to mention, I know y'all probably see there's a lot of new line items that have no amounts on there. This next year for 2018, what we're hoping to do is separate a lot of those expenses out so that when we come back next year and look at these budgets, it's going to be easier for the departments to go ahead and analyze, okay, for my janitorial supplies, I spent $500. Right now, it's currently all going into that operating supplies line item. So we just want to separate that out so it's easier for the departments to budget for that next year and for the council to see what they're spending exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Is that something that we'll start seeing on the quarterlies come January?
Yeah, it'll start October 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we'll see it in January.
Departments will see it monthly at the close of every month, and then when it's brought to council for budget amendments, you all will see it then.
Okay.
That's good.
And on your appendix A in the back of your budget book, we've already given definitions for those new line items so that all the departments will be getting those so they know exactly where something needs to be coded. If they have questions, they can call finance and we can discuss where it needs to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Noticed in this one that we had the 2,931 for maintenance and repairs, and you said that's like to the sorting machines and or what is that for?
That's under 5425, building repair and maintenance. There wasn't anything requested. Did something happen that we needed?
Because I noticed that now we're asking for 1,350.
I think
What's
those
this,
were the
the-
drive-through windows.
Oh,
Yes,
there you go.
The drawer,
Yeah.
the drawer,
Our drive-through window.
the drawer.
Our drive-through window is, our building is it's no secret, it's old. And the window that we have where customers drive in and out, we had a little bit of an accident. Not us, but someone actually ran into the window. They're becoming harder and harder to fix because the individuals who know how to work on these types of windows, the technology is almost obsolete. And that's what you're seeing there was the repair for that.
And I think they set aside some money
Just in case it happens again.
Yeah.
The drawer gets left out and
So that's
they
the
don't see it when
requested
they're coming
amount.
around the turn on their phone, whatever the case may be, and, you know, they don't give the cashier enough time and, another repair.
And to follow with our insurance, it
Insurance.
doesn't even meet the deductible. So
I was gonna say, yeah.
yeah, our buildings are, I think it's 2,000.
And this is why, for a long period of time, our drive-through was closed, was because we didn't have the window operational. And there are a lot of individuals, there are a lot of citizens who actually utilize our window,
Oh, I see.
especially those that are disabled or elderly, so it is an added convenience
It's
to
a busier
them.
pay station. So
Okay.
out of all the CSRs, that's the one that counts the more money throughout the day, because it is utilized a lot, especially on bad weather days, things like that in the morning when parents are leaving their kids and they're still in their jammies and they don't want to get down. It's busy. That's a busy station there.
Speaking of pay stations, have we looked at something similar to, for example, when you walk into AT&T, you can go to a kiosk and just
kiosk.
pay there?
Yeah,
I was-
Mr. Ramos
How's that?
and
Is
I-
that-
yeah.
Is that
I have
kind
a
of-
meeting set up with the gentleman, because
Okay.
I told him we couldn't afford that amount right now, so
Right.
the last email that he exchanged, he said, I have an idea on how we could do it for free. I'm thinking it's on a cost basis on whatever it's used for. So I have a meeting set up with him, but it's a kiosk system, but it's just a matter of, this is more like an ATM. So
Yes.
it'd be where you want to set it up, whether it be
Right.
here in the parking lot or some other. That's where I mentioned
Yes.
to the ATM, I mean to the lady from Wells Fargo, maybe partner up with something there, just an off-site location. And they do have some where you can actually set up like a little terminal inside the facility
Right.
also for the walk-ins who want to go and just pay and walk straight
Right,
out.
Yeah.
not have to wait in the
Right.
lines.
That's through another system that I'm looking into also.
What about, can you pay your water bill at HEB?
No.
No, that's another one that I mentioned. HEB is
Yeah, have we visited with them about that?
I've spoken to Marisela and she didn't know we could do that, but we.
Yes.
There's just so much that we've talked about, and I need to get back to utility billing once we're done with budget.
Yes.
And we'll be
Focusing on those areas.
Yes.
We have had customers that do request to go pay it at H-E-B or Ralph's, things like that.
Yeah.
Yes,
We have had
exactly.
individuals that say that they pay it at the location too, and they think that they do pay it as well, and we've had some issues with that, so, but right now.
We would have to probably pay them a service.
I would think
There's
so. I would
probably-
There'd be a
think there'd
fee.
We have
for
to
them
cost
take it.
analysis it out and
Right.
determine whether it's something that's
Absolutely, like
feasible.
anything.
Usually the fees charged to the customer.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, it is.
But it's a convenience
Opinions
fee.
being the
Yeah.
same as we're talking about that might need to be done here.
It's a convenience fee, and
Right.
so, but it's certainly something to apply a cost analysis to.
Where it assists also is in the turn off. Somebody's been turned off after hours.
Exactly.
They no longer have
Yeah.
an excuse to not, it's closed here, they can pay.
Correct.
You have a lot of different options. Well, you can go pay at H-E-B, get your receipt, give it to the person that, and show evidence that you've been,
Right.
Exactly.
that you've made your payment.
Yep.
I would certainly look at that because you can also be able the next morning to see those that did pay and maybe save time on our staff having to go out there and shut them off or something.
I guess we'd have to see how it would communicate with the system if it makes a batch, just like our online, things like that. So then we would be able to see it right away.
Yeah.
You'll be able to see it right away, so you don't have to, if you're short on staff,
Like an automatic
on the
draft.
shut-offs and stuff,
That would
you'll
go
be able
to
to see
City
it.
of
How it
Alice.
communicates.
Their work orders would have it. I mean, it's
There's so much technology now, we just have to grasp it. And it's scary in the beginning, and we feel like, oh, we don't have time, but we have to make time to be innovative and technology savvy.
I'll get with you later. I want to look at the system because I've done a lot of CRM, ERM implementations and programming, so maybe there's something I can.
Marisa, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Why is there always a long line of people waiting to pay their bill?
We would have to assess the day they come in. If you come in, like, say, close to due date, like on Monday, this past week, the line's gonna be long, because individuals wait till that last day to make their payment. And the line will be all the way to the bathroom. I've had the drive-through all the way to around the San Diego Street over here, close to the street where the chamber is. They wait till the last day. We have several ways for them to come in and pay. There's no need to wait to that very last day to come in. They can even pay online until they have right before 10 o'clock. So then those individuals who choose to pay that way, they will not assess a penalty. But to come into the office, they only have up to 5 o'clock because that's the time that we close.
Okay, you have 3 windows. Sometimes you just have one girl at just the one window.
Because of the way that it's been where we have had that less individual in the department, one less individual, and then people getting sick, people having family members sick, vacation time, and then lunch times. And that's because we do 1 at a time now instead of 2 at a time like we used to do. It's hard. It's hard. We only have those individuals. If somebody calls in sick, you'll even see me. I'll be at the drive-through window taking payments. So then the girl at the window or man at the window, whoever's working, will have to come up front. So then we can have 2 windows. It all depends on our work day and who showed up, who didn't show up,
Okay,
things like that.
and you have how many employees in there?
Right now, I have 6 right now.
6.
She'll have 7 come October.
I'll have 7 at that time. But it's been hard because not all of them are there every single day. A lot of them do have elderly parents or husbands who are sick, wives who are sick, children who are sick. They have the time to take, though. They have vacation time or sick time, whatever is needed. And sometimes things just unforeseen happen. Or you might have some kind of emergency, you have to leave. But I'll stand in and I'll take payments as well. But I take them at the window because that's the busier pay station. So I can get them in and out pretty fast. But that's why you'll see a line, especially look at the day, please, on when it is. I ask all of you if you want to come to the department on any day. Pick any day you want. Come whenever, unannounced, whatever. The invite's there for you to see the workload that's in the department there. Just please.
Are you still closing half the day on Thursday?
On Thursday, yes. As of right now, it's going to be revisited to see if we're going to stop that or not. But that did help us a lot on catching up on work, because You might not think it, but having that one less individual, the workload has to still be done. It's a lot to get all these new accounts entered, to get finals done, to do water tap information, to do the cutoff list, to do the bank drafts, to do the billing for precinct 1. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And having that less body, even though it's one, it does impact the department. It does. So we have been trying to cross-train more. When we are closed on that day, that's easier to be done, to have somebody sit with you and train them, because on a busy day, there's no way to cross-train. There's just no way. There's no way to do it.
Well, cross-training should be done in every department.
Right.
I mean, we need to start looking.
And we're actually cross-training between departments right now.
Yep.
Right.
So we have our code enforcement officers who are now cross-trained at the library. We have administrative secretaries that can fill in payroll and AP,
That's awesome.
and
CSRs at the
CSRs that can go up to utility billing, or CSRs that can go over to the natatorium or the golf course. So that's one of the areas that
We are
we've been
doing it.
focusing on and are going to be expanding on as we go.
We should never, ever stop looking for ways of, as department heads, coming up with utilization of our personnel, improved work methods, and obviously automation. Those are just things that should come first and foremost to the front as managers, that we stick to the basics of those goals in our departments and start practicing those management skills. But I do like that you all are doing that, so I appreciate that.
Moving back down to 5430, sorry.
Yeah,
It
it-
was the
yeah,
inserter folder and the copier rentals.
So
What's the
copier
new one?
lease, we just put it in that one, I guess? Okay.
I'm sorry.
What's the new one that's adding the 5,000?
That was a change.
I think it was just a change in the cost because we did get new copiers in October, and I think there was a slight increase with the new copier from from our
And
previous.
yeah, let me explain how old the other copiers were. Half the time staff spent taking out paper jams, or it not printing appropriately, or us calling constantly for technical support because they weren't printing. Once the copier leases were renegotiated and the new copiers come in, the efficiency in that department
So much faster, so much better. If it gets stuck, it's very rare. With the other copier that was there, I could have been a technician working for that company because I could make it sometimes get unstuck. But for the most part, we were calling them. So when you'd see the technician come in, it's like, oh no, it's going to be down for a while. And it's hard because we were having to ask other departments, can we use your printers? Can we use that to print out the statements? But with the new one that we have, it's so much better. So much better.
It's faster, quicker, more efficient. So while I believe the initial fee is a little bit more, I think in efficiency they've probably gained a lot of hours with just not sitting there. Someone literally had to sit there and babysit the copier.
Yep.
So we've done away with that.
Are we local with the copiers?
I believe we're using,
Jim?
Jim.
Jim's not here.
Jim's not here today.
It's Josh.
Not?
No.
Oh,
I'll have to determine.
I think we're using
This is Day Hill?
Who do we pay?
with the county and the copiers, right?
Did we bid out?
Yeah, it was bid out. I do know that it was bid out.
And we included Alice, I'm hoping.
The RFP would have gone out on the website, and then normally most RFPs have a standard list of everyone who's bid before, and they're given the opportunity in the newspaper and on the website. I wouldn't know, Mayor, if somebody local even submitted a bid, but when we meet with Jim's department, we can ask those questions.
And how long is the lease?
I don't think
Usually about 3.
They're usually 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, they're usually about 3 years.
I would like to see like it's separated too.
And
like,
it is,
yearly.
you'll see 5431.
That's what we're gonna start doing, right?
Yeah, if you see
Yeah.
5431 right underneath it,
Mhm.
that's come October, we'll be able to separate those expenses.
Perfect. Yeah, because that's a huge expense sometimes for big organizations like the city, where maybe we can join forces with the county and get a better deal on a lease program. So just food for thought. Thank you. If there's no council questions on property services, we'll move on to other purchase property. Okay.
The only line item there is communications. It's staying stagnant from adopted. 17 actually went down in 16. I believe that these are the phones.
The phone?
Yeah.
This is Marisol's, I think, or no, the supervisor's cell phone.
Cell phone. Because I'm on call too after 5. I'm on call every day. Every day for anything. Reconnects, emergencies. So.
And who's the other that has the cell phone?
Meter reading.
That'll be in a different
but that'll
department,
be on
though.
his budget.
So the
This is
620 is for your phone?
Yes, ma'am, for the year.
Because that's one of the things. Hers is 620, but
Yes.
communication, sometimes not the people that have phones really need phones, so that's another big cut that happens.
That has been evaluated. Jim did an extensive evaluation last year. He's going through it again to determine phones that are not being used to their maximum potential be downgraded. And then those individuals, such as meter readers who have flip phones and probably need more of a upgraded device to be able to communicate appropriately, they'd be passed on. So that's something that's in the process and works right now. They did renegotiate contracts, I believe, with Nextel. Was it last year?
It was Verizon.
With Verizon, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Verizon.
I was gonna say.
Was it last year?
I don't know, but I know he's also looking at data usage to
Yeah.
see if some people have too much data and they don't need that budget.
Mhm.
Right.
And lower
And,
if they don't have
you know,
that
they did
much
cut,
budget.
there were a lot of expenses cut down on communications last year, but it's still ongoing and something that we're looking at.
Okay. Because that's a huge expense. People that really don't have the need for a company phone, so to speak, stripped
should be. And some of
of
us
it.
that probably need a better phone.
Need to,
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
spending money on a flip phone that really.
Yeah, so that's that line item. The next big one is going to be technical services, and Marisol, you're going to have to walk me through.
That's a big
That's
jump there.
That's
Oh.
the software.
Okay, that's the software.
So.
And we did change it this year just because we felt, we kind of analyzed it differently, and UB is on it all day, so we would split it between UB and finance. And we would have charged more to finance because finance had more modules, but we kind of did it more on who uses it more, so we kind of put more on them than we did on finance. The full cost is about, I think, 50,000.
We use it a lot. We're on it all day long. So when the system goes down, I'm always calling Jim, hey, we need it up. Because without the system, you can't do anything.
But I guess I'm confused as to why, because this is like across the budget, and I haven't added it yet, but technical services.
Technical services
It'll be different
encompasses
things.
different areas for different departments.
Yeah.
For this particular department, it's their software. In other departments, it could be test writing, it could be, give me a breakdown.
We can pull it from the, hold on.
Well, since
read
we're
it
on
out
this
to you.
department, so it's just software, and
Just the software.
so 36,000
That's what,
a year.
And we'll pay it in October. It'll be one of those items that we paid at the beginning of the year, and then you won't see it
You
anymore.
won't see it again until the end of the year.
What are the
But she's saying
modules
that we're
that you're
splitting
using?
it.
Like, well, they have a utility billing, I'm sorry, like the different ones,
Right.
modules that, like, finance has AP, payroll,
Right.
general ledger, accounts receivable, bank reconciliations, fixed assets.
CRCA,
Human resources,
clearinghouse,
UB.
utility billing, accounts
Okay,
receivable.
one at a time, guys.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, one at a time. It encompasses every area. So for UB, it's going to be everything from their billing, their collections, their cutoffs, and even the readings from the meter readers coming in from the handhelds and being drawn up into the module for them to appropriately bill. In finance, it's going to encompass accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, which ties into HR, which ties into your HRIS,
Okay.
right? It's also going to have cash receipts,
GL.
GL, fixed assets, and bank recs and purchasing. Then there is a module for inspections and codes.
Building and permits,
Building and permitting, licensing and permitting. The system is encompassed to work with municipalities.
And they are expensive. That's why I wanted you to
They're extremely
outline the
expensive.
different types of modules, because I can understand why this cost is what is stated. These modules are expensive to purchase, so.
We've looked at other avenues. We spoke with Encode, which you mentioned before.
Right.
At this time, it would be expensive to transition, both in money, initial
For a whole new
expense,
system.
but more importantly, the timing of changing to a system. There's a very short window between budgeting, auditing, and so forth, where we can transition to something new with training and everything. With us being so dependent on the system, we felt that this was the best avenue to be able to buy us some time. In addition, the purchasing of the server is going to, excuse me, alleviate a lot of the issues we're facing with, like if UB is running billing and payroll is running at the same time, there's only so much space. And what's happening is one system or the other is closing down on me.
It'll go slow, so you'll know right off the bat. Any department using it, if you see that it's thinking too long, you know something's going on.
You'll notice also the cost increase, but the last time that we had upgraded Springbrook, I believe was after my son was born. It was 2011. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, 2011.
That's a huge.
Did we add
But
any?
the increase is just because finance would take the bulk of it,
Right.
and we just changed it more
Separate.
to
And
who's on it more.
it's a
through
one-time.
Yeah.
It's a one-time fee. You won't see it
So you're
next year.
gonna see
Oh, we won't see
a
it next
decrease
year.
in finance.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's one time for now, and then there's just the annual fee that we're paying for, I guess, the subscription,
The
so to speak.
subscription
Perfect.
and-
Yeah, but this
Okay.
is a one-time
And
fee.
tech support.
Correct.
Okay.
Tech support is
Yeah.
included.
Yes.
Yes.
Did we add any new modules? So did we add anything, and well, I guess I can ask that when we get to the multi-use complex center. How are we tracking?
They do not have, well, they do
Tracking that.
use our cash receipts module, and that's about it.
That's it.
With their own
But
billing
they're-
codes.
Right, with their own billing codes and their own fee codes, and then
Makes
their
sense.
registers are set up on their end with their controls to be able to bring those deposits over and hit where they
Cover
need to
that.
hit.
Okay, I just, thank you.
But they do not have a point-of-service
They don't?
module
Software.
that I'm aware of for that type of facility.
Do you know what the subscription is yearly? Is there a general?
The total fee, it's about 56,000 for the year.
Okay.
And there is actually a software for
There are
out there. I was given the name of one.
there are
but
several,
I-
and we're looking into those to
Okay.
determine whether it's something that would be cost-effective for us.
And it needs to make sure it integrates back into.
Correct, that it integrates back
And
into our
that's the
system.
biggest- the
And
biggest
that's
thing
the
is
biggest challenge that we faced in looking at some of
double
them a couple
entry is
years
bad.
ago.
You might want to check with the City of El Campo, City of Victoria, and they have that type of software that integrates with the auditoriums that they have.
So I guess a plus on this we would see is that we're going, next year we won't see 36, we'll see about 5,600, right, in this. Is that safe to say or no?
No. It's every year.
Oh, this 36
No.
is.
Every year.
Oh, Diana, I misunderstood
But
you
it's
then.
annual.
36,000 is every year?
The full payment to Excel is about
50 per year.
53,000, 56,000. That's the annual fee.
So the 36,000 that is in the requested right now will be in the budget again next year?
This is your annual subscription.
Yes,
What-
it's an
what-
annual
So that's
fee.
subscription then, not
What she
software.
did was spread more
Yeah.
to the,
Towards-
and in
I understand
essence,
that part.
That
Mhm.
helps the general fund.
Diana said the other, so I was okay. I was better with what Diana said
Oh,
than
sorry.
the reality.
I
It's
misunderstood.
okay.
I
No, it's
assumed
okay.
that,
That's their annual maintenance fee.
Yeah.
And
Maintenance.
even with Encode, if we had gone with
Yeah.
Encode, the
There-
fee
There's
is
always
annual
going to be
fee.
a fee for it.
Encode's higher than this, actually.
Yeah, Encode is
That
actually
is.
higher.
And it's a big program. I mean, it's understandable. Okay, if there's no other questions on this,
That actually concludes your utility billing. The next one is utility metering, which is the other portion of utilities downstairs. They're the individuals who actually go out and read the meters. I would like to request if we could break at noon, or if I can be excused because I do have an appointment. But it's 11:20, so we can.
I have a lunch meeting as well.
Move as smoothly as we can go. Again, personnel at the top. There is proposed, and correct me, we did propose one additional meter reader. Okay. We are proposing one additional person to the meter reading crew. They are historically have been 3 meter readers plus a supervisor. There are now currently 2 meter readers plus a supervisor, and they have been short a meter reader for, this is the 3rd year. This is I believe the 3rd year that they, so with that kind of data, we've been able to determine that it's not working for us. Especially with no overtime and the amount of coverage and accounts that the city has to cover, we feel it is more cost effective to add that meter reader back. Number one, to cover the areas, make sure that we're cutting off appropriately, reconnecting appropriately, and not getting behind on reading the routes. But more importantly, it is going to allow our supervisor to focus on areas that probably have not been focused on in some time.
Yes, if I may.
Yes.
My job as supervisor, when after my meter readers go out there and collect the readings, before we have been having problems with people coming in and said there's no way that this is my bill. I'm pretty sure you've heard that. My job is to stop all that. When I download the readings, I look at all the readings and I go over them, and if I see if there's anything in the history that looks off, looks different, I have my meter reader go back out there and recheck it at that time before it goes into the billing. And it's sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But I have not been able to do that. I've not been able to do my job because I'm out there reading and teaching them. And I've been here 12 years. The people I have here right now, they've only been here months. And the meters are not easily recognizable. They're not all in the front.
Right.
They're not all clean. They're in the alley. People put brush on them. Debris. They're in the easements, not easy to be found. Easements are grown up. So these guys are not. They're trying their hardest to find where these meters are. So when they come back with a reading that I don't agree with, I'll send them back out there. But I have not been able to do that.
On our side, though, not to interrupt, on our side, on billing side, even when he does that, we still check for high consumption before the bill goes out. So we manually look for anything over 15,000 gallons and more to see if the customer has used it in the past. If they have not used it, we do send them out again to go get a reread. So then we try to fix those kind of errors if there was an error before the bill goes out. But if it comes back correct, that means consumption was used. I don't know where, I don't know how. But if it comes back correct, then it's coming from the reading and it was correct. But if it is wrong, then we will adjust it at that time before the bill goes out. So there is on our side, the check's always there. On his side, that would be a double check, which helps. Because by the time we go through it, we could be crunching the days that it needs to be done before it goes out, because every week and a half, we have our deadlines to get the bills out. That's what we do, collect and bill.
With the addition of the one position, you are going to notice an increase, of course, to salary and FICA and benefits and so forth and so on. But we do feel that that investment will help alleviate and give better productivity. More importantly, as we start to look to future projects with the replacing of meters with smart meters, and Mr. Ramos continues to focus with utility billing. We're hoping that Caesar will be able to assist in those areas, and we can spruce up a lot of what has been lacking in this particular department. It has been very difficult with them with only the 3.
And at one time there was only him. so.
Yes, for 7,300 meters. I made up a map. We have a total of 75 routes. Well, we have a total of 36 routes, and they are numbered from 11 to 72 with room to grow. And as you all know, Alice is growing, and we're over K-Bar now. And but this is a colored map of our routes and how they extend. I don't believe K-Bar is in there as of
Not yet.
What's the color coding for? What does it depict?
The routes
The
to
individual
kind of more or less distinguish. I've got see like what's this?
15.
The 15. It's a certain color, and then they're numbered up on top.
Every meter is read on a different day.
How many routes was it?
There's 36 routes.
Okay.
36 routes.
That's what I thought you said. Yeah.
But they're numbered from 11 to 75. And there's
That's why I asked. I look down, I see 72.
That's creative.
Yeah, they're skipped.
So 11 to 75 are the routes?
Those are the routes.
Yeah, those are
Name,
the names.
I mean, just like
yeah.
a name.
You have cycle
1 and
202,
Cycle 2, north
and then
side.
cycle 1 on the south side. Cycle 1 is the higher, starting from 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Cycle 2 is 11, starts at 11, which is downtown area, 12, 13, 14, and so on. But there's skips, and there it skips from 19 to 21. There's actually going to be a 20, which is going to be over on where that new Missouri, is that Missouri, Alaska?
Oregon.
Oh, that's
Easterling area.
That's a little subdivision, I think, where you live, or that area. That's going to be 20.
So I guess I would like to know, because I'm not even going to retain that because it's unique in its way. There's 3 people reading meters.
Well,
or there's going to be.
There's going to be there's 2 meter readers that read. 2 meter readers do a lot of cover a lot of area. That other meter reader, what that other meter reader does, he's in service. That's all he does. And then what happens is we rotate. You know, and that's another checks and balances. If let's say one meter reader goes on a route and he reads, makes a misread. And then the other meter reader the next month comes around and picks up that misread. Then we say, hey, well, this was misread. You know, so that's another checks and balances.
So how long does it take? Say my meter. How often is it read a year?
A year?
12.
Would it be read every month?
It's read every month.
See, I don't see that. I don't. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't.
And Caesar, if you
I
would
don't see meters being read.
Explain to them how some of the meters are electronic, how some of them have to be read manually.
How do you read the meters? They're not walking, are they, like they used to?
Okay, yours is electronic, so we don't physically read that. We pass by a truck and boom, we pick it up.
Just drive by.
Yes.
Yeah, they have the handheld.
But those are the new ones out there.
Yes,
But how many old ones do we have?
I cannot tell you how many old ones that we have. I can tell you how many. Okay.
The reason I'm saying is, obviously we all get the complaint. My water bill went up.
Yes.
This one lady just messaged me last night, and it went up over $100 in a matter of 3 months. So I'm going, well, if there's a problem with the meter, which it sounds like she's a single elderly lady, and water consumption is low, same thing. We hear it all the time, same scenario. So how in 3 months did it go up $100? We didn't go up on rates.
Okay,
so
what you need to look at is, well, one, they need to call us and say, okay, let's reread it. Now, some of those complaints that you have, because in the ground right now, from the old MXU meters, the old automated meters that we have right now, the Census MXUs, we have about 2,000 in the ground.
Okay.
The new ones, the new Mueller meters that I'm installing, we have approximately 306 that have been already put in the ground.
Okay.
The rest of those are going to be manual read meters, so just
So
subtract.
which ones do you read? The new ones? Just
We read all of them.
No, but what I mean, just drive by and.
The automated, the automated meters, which would be the Mueller meters and
Okay.
the Census MXU meters. Now, if they call you and tell you, well, man, my consumption went up, there's no way. There's a possibility that maybe we put in a new meter because their meter was stopped, so it wasn't registering any consumption.
Minimum bill.
Yes, it would have been a minimum bill of
55.17.
55
for. And it's inside city limits.
We've had some that have been minimum bills for years.
But now that they're changing, because we're not the only ones who change it out, the meter shop changes it out as well, because they have different crews, so they can do more at one time.
The goal is to try and get as many of these new, more efficient smart meters, is what we call them, installed as possible, so that we are appropriately charging and generating revenue. But as this process continues, you probably will have individuals who for years have had a minimum bill, and now that the meter has been changed, they're seeing true consumption. The smart meters are actually, you can, if I'm not mistaken, minute by minute.
Yes,
You can actually see, hour by hour, you can see
Like
consumption.
telemetry.
Yes.
See how much they're
We can show you on the new Mueller meters, we can show you exactly how much you use within that hour, within that day. If we did one recently that there's no way they were using that. Found out that somebody was going at night when they were asleep and they were getting water from behind the house.
Oh, no.
So the minimum is 55.17.
Inside city limits is 55.17.
So
we
is
need the
it,
opportunity to at least reread it first, because that's always the first step.
right.
And since we do have the two new individuals, they've only been there, one of us has been there like 4 months, the other one maybe 5 or 6, or about the same, because he hasn't been with us that long. It could have been misread, it could have been one of those manually read meters, the numbers could have been scratched, or, you know, it's difficult. So give us the opportunity first to do the reread, and if we are wrong, we'll fix it.
The meter infrastructure is old. We have a lot of old meters. We've got Rockwell meters out there. Rockwell they're old. Those are, and we have Kent meters. Kent no longer makes meters. We have Badger meters, so I think they turned into Neptune. We have a lot of meters out there that they're old. TCEQ recommends that we change out meters every, what, Joe, 7 to 5 years?
7 to 10.
7 to 10 years.
And when
We have meters out there that have been out there for 50 years.
And when meters break down, they don't speed up, they slow down,
slow down.
until they're stopped reading. Water's still being used, but it stops reading.
We're not picking up the consumption.
Exactly. And so that's why,
So when you change out the meter, they're like, oh my
And
God,
also-
I'm using all this, because they
So
got
that's
used to,
why.
they got used of it, of
May
using
I-
a certain amount of water. But
May
we
I
don't know
ask?
until we go out there and look at it.
yes, ma'am.
I mean, you said have we slowly started replacing these? Have you
Yes.
asked for this in your budgets? Have
Well,
you-
it's not
you
my
said you have
budget,
12 units.
it's
It's
Joe's
Joe
budget.
It's gonna be a different
Science's
budget.
budget, yes.
Between both departments, we've been
Okay.
Working closely.
Yes.
You're
together to
identifying
get
and you're
this.
at,
Yes,
in
ma'am.
gradual
I've got a
replacement.
list of, I've got 478 stop meters
Okay.
that I've sent Joe, and so this is what we're
They need
working
to
on
be
right now.
changed out.
It's one of the
this is all-
projects that we're focusing on more now than ever, which is why the addition of this position will help alleviate a lot of this and speed it up. I think the goal of both departments and utilities, meter reading, and even finance is to be able to collect as much revenue as possible, catch up with technology, and be able to provide the service to our citizens that they are paying for.
When was the last time that we had a study done on water loss and revenue? I know Johnson Controls did one
We,
back in the day.
I don't.
Have we had one?
There was one
I
where.
do that
Yeah.
every year through the Texas Water Development Board.
Do they actually
And we're
come
like
in
at 19%,
that we're losing?
correct, and we've been as high as 30%.
So we've done,
The,
Is the percentage decrease, is it based on that we're replacing some of these meters, or what led to?
No, because it's a new program, we're just getting started on it.
Mhm.
It's
On
just
the
the
readings.
improvements that we're making on the infrastructure. Actually, the time that it's taking to repair leaks has improved a lot as well. So the downtime on that is making a big difference.
I only have one other question on this utility metering. It's a personnel question. I noticed that you have meter reader / service technician.
Yes,
Are these 3 meter readers also service technunions?
Yes,
or is
they're-
this
because we
one that's a
rotate.
Service technician?
No,
It's
they're
a-
all
they're all
because
the same.
one you have to be licensed by the TCEQ when you touch water. Okay, so if you're only considered a meter reader, then they will not allow you to go to school, attend that school, and to receive that take the test and receive the license. You have to be considered a service tech. Now, and like I said, we rotate every if there's supposed to be 3 meter readers, we rotate every 3 months. 2 are going to be reading, and 1 is going to be doing nothing but service, reconnecting, disconnecting.
Real quick, the 478 stop meters that you have right now that are working together to try to get replaced over a period of time, is that the totality of the min billing, or is there more min billing going on? Like, I'd like to get a count on a monthly min bill.
We would have to check because a lot of individuals, like especially these last couple months for summertime, they might be minimum bills because they go on vacation, they go visit family, they go visit sons and daughters or parents or whatever the case may be. So we would have to look because when we review our billing register and something comes up as a minimum bill, that doesn't mean it's a stop meter. It means that they might have not been around to use it, or they might have been in the hospital, things like that, an accident. You never know the situation. The elderly uses less, but not all the time, because they could be one of our top users. So it just depends across the board what the scenario is for each of those individuals.
What's the minimum billing?
5517 inside city limits.
And what gallon usage does that actually?
0 to 1,000. So
0
even
to
if they
1,000.
don't use 1 drop of water, it's going to be 5517. And then we get a lot of complaints about that.
But I think the plan, Mr. Chris, was to go ahead and replace all of them regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because they're
Especially if it's an
older.
older meter.
Yeah.
You know, just replace it, and
We need
since
to
we're going
replace
towards
them.
smart meter.
And those are already purchased, right? To be done? Is that correct?
Some have been
Some of
purchased.
them
Some have.
we put a big bulk
The-
on next year's budget.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's what I was asking. Are we doing a gradual
Yeah, we need to do
replacement
that.
program?
Yes.
So-
Okay.
And one of the things that I'm seeing here is that we are adding things. When we're trying to decrease our budget, we are adding things, and I'm
Increase
saying,
revenue.
yeah, to increase revenue and reduce expense. So yeah, the fact that we're
It's
adding.
been, the benefit of it is outweighing the initial investment that
Exactly.
you're seeing. You're gonna, the difference in, the one position, the $24,000 to add the position, a couple of meters that you replace over the course of a year, you're going to recoup that money very quickly. And because these positions are in the utility fund that has a healthy fund balance, I felt that it was appropriate to include this position.
Absolutely. Very good.
And we're already interviewing, so it's going to be done pretty fast.
Very good.
I'm sorry, I just popped a chocolate in my mouth, so we're good.
Any other questions, council, on this?
Now, will we be adding a vehicle for the additional person? Will there be
No,
a-
they're-
extra expense? Do we have it already?
We already have it.
Right.
Okay.
We have 4 trucks. We have 4
But
vehicles.
fuel consumption will go up because that's coming in a future line
Yeah,
item.
that's,
Yeah.
Our
that's-
vehicles are old though.
Yeah, we
Every
have
year
one.
we ask for a new vehicle, at least one every year, or maybe we can get it lent from a different department.
Yeah.
See, I've been asking already for a while. They know who I've been asking to see if we can get one, because they're old. Like right now, one of them's in the shop. The older ones have been in the shop quite some time, so we do ask for one every year, but obviously we know the situation here, so they've been making do with what we have.
Okay.
I think we have
Maricela,
one.
when you say in the shop, where do you take it to the?
To the city garage.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And whatever repairs they can do there, they do them. If not, it has to be, from my understanding, it's got to be.
That was the reason I was
outsourced.
asking. Mhm.
So I'm not too sure how that goes on that end
But I do believe they do the majority of repairs.
of the work there.
continue down.
Okay.
Huh?
Other questions? We'll move on.
Okay, we're moving into materials and supplies next. They, 5,200 office supplies, they've reduced by $50. They are requesting 100 for the year. And I'm assuming that some of it may have to do with
The locks.
locks. Yeah,
Barrel
I was-
locks.
yeah.
What,
Barrel
it
locks.
won't go on this one.
What's that?
A barrel lock's going
Oh,
on
it did.
52.
52, okay, so
I
what?
think you had said that there was just some things y'all hadn't ordered and y'all taking from these. That's like your
The-
tape and your
We
staples.
borrow.
There-
we borrow
Oh,
supplies
that's
from
supplies,
That-
okay.
your
Standard office
Oh,
supplies,
okay,
pens,
yeah, because
pencils.
I take mine from her.
He borrows them. But they do need their own supplies.
Wearing apparel has come down as well. You'll notice in 16,954, 17 adopted 1,500. They're asking for 972, and 650 for requested.
We
You
were-
changed your.
No, what we were thinking of doing, because we buy the vests, you know, the vest.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so the vests are hot, and well, they get dirty, and then they have to launder them, and some of them they end up tearing. So we were thinking, and I think we could. Some of the guys are big, so sometimes we have to get the extra large that get a little more.
Okay.
So we were thinking of maybe going to a
It's
bright
a-
colored shirt.
It's an all-in-one safety
Yes,
shirt.
there-
They're
that's-
Tyvek material. They dry quicker.
Yeah.
I believe, Joe, is it your guys that are using them?
Yes.
And they actually already on the shirt have the safety striping and the
Seen
reflective
those.
material.
Oh, yeah.
And
A lot lighter and cooler too.
light cooler, and they could launder them
Yep.
at home.
Mm-hmm.
As far as our department, we're not in sewer. We're mostly in water, mud, and dirt. We have to, huh?
Sometimes so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the
Get in there and dig.
yeah, the majority of the time it's I mean it's not toxic
Right.
stuff.
Which requires a different uniform.
Yeah, and so I think
Cleaning process.
Safety
they
and
because
cleaning.
I've laundered mine at home.
Right,
you know.
right. Yeah. Very good.
They're not anticipating any changes to fuel. And it looks like they've come down on repair and maintenance supplies. Or actually, they're staying the same, I'm sorry. Operating supplies, 5290 is where your locks are going, Caesar.
that-
If you'll
that's-
explain the
yeah.
locks to them.
That's a necessity, to
Yeah,
disconnect
we have a lot
individuals.
of tampering, breaking of locks, and those locks they're not cheap. They're
And we try to get those fees back from the customer when we catch them for tampering.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work, because you have to do a police report, go out there, we charge tampering. So I want to raise the tampering fees. So that's what I'm going to be proposing, to raise the fees.
I think there's a little something wrong with y'all's math there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. It's not making sense to me.
Yeah, how do you get
5290?
900?
So your end results are gonna be
200.
200.
200 versus 900.
900.
Yeah.
150 versus that, and then so the 2650.
200.
So it's gonna kind of extrapolate all the way down.
You got it?
2450. No,
It's a formula, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Just
just only 200.
because that whole metering department change is gonna be different than that.
Materials and supplies is different.
And the supplies also.
It's gonna go up by about 2,300.
Go up?
Go up.
700.
Well, I'm saying the
Go
final,
down.
the
Oh,
last, the final number.
I was like-
Yeah, no, that number's gonna go.
Yeah, that's going down.
To 1950, materials and supplies, right?
Oh, I said 23. I'm sorry, no, because it's you got 850 up top.
Yeah, they're looking
The
at
difference
this
of
one.
700.
So it
700.
went up to, I think, 32,501.
Bottom line.
What is it, 32 what?
It should be
22,000.
Bottom line.
Right. The very, very bottom.
Right,
total.
32,000.
32,501.
Okay.
It's a lot of cells. I know, sorry.
Didn't it go down?
This went down,
Down.
which means that it's gonna go up because that's a savings and that's a
This will
loss.
Gotcha. Okay, there's no other questions. We can move on.
The next one is
Purchase
going to
property
be purchase
services?
property services. Vehicle repair and maintenance is the only line item here. And it looks like historically,
You know what, I'm sorry, on the operating, Caesar had actually told me he could cut,
Yeah.
about $500 from his operating and $100 from his minor equipment, small tools.
Oh, okay.
So I had already put that in there, I'm sorry. That's why I know you asked something about, the difference.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Okay.
On the operating supplies,
Okay.
It's 700 right now.
he said he could go down to 200.
Okay, so that's
Total?
gonna go down to two.
Yes, for requested, for 2018 requested.
Okay, so instead of 7, 200.
Yes, and then on minor equipment, small tools, he said he could go down to $100.
It's a $700 savings.
Great job, Caesar.
And
We
I'm
appreciate that.
I'm anticipating
100.
because while we're putting in these new meters,
Mhm.
Joe has purchased lockable meter
Covers?
boxes.
Okay. Mhm.
So my plan is that the first initial, when we go and have to unfortunately cut somebody off, well, of course, it's gonna be a lockable box, so we're just gonna have to cut them off and the box will be locked. If there's any signs of tampering, that box it's easily breakable. It's noticeably breakable, right?
They would have to break the lock off.
They would, yeah.
And the lock, so you have to replace the box.
So we'd have to, there would be tampering there, the tampering fee there.
That's why I
There'd
want to
be,
increase the charge.
there would be, to replace the box, there would be the tampering fee. The lock box would kind of take place of the barrel locks that I have to buy. Now, if there's another tampering, well, of course, we'd have to lock it. And then there'd be another tampering fee, another lock, a box, and of course, the fee for the lock.
And we want to start looking at, if they do that, to press charges and follow through, do all of that process.
That way it stops. Good. Okay. Purchase property services.
the only expense in this section is vehicle repair and maintenance services. I'm assuming, Caesar, you all are using historical data to come up with your budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No questions on that, Council? Okay, move on to purchase property, other purchase property.
Communications, like we discussed, are the two phones. I believe the meter reader has one, and then the meter reader who's in service has the other one.
The service tech and then
the service tech and him.
Yeah, I had spoken to you. I'm exploring or trying, but I want to find a different way on how to go about paperless, because when a work order is generated, of course we have to go out. We have to come in from the field
out of the field
to the office,
vehicle, yeah.
pick up the work order, 5, 10, whatever this, and then go back out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how can we do it so that we can maybe email to the phone that the work order that the service guy has. That way he doesn't have to waste that time, come in, and he can get a little bit more done.
Absolutely.
A little bit more.
So we'd have to see if it's cost effective, because of course there has to be cost for that.
Yeah, but I'm trying. I'm gonna try something to see if it works.
He's already looked at it and he's already shown me it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
but the only
It's an app.
Yeah, it's an app, but the only
app.
thing with that app I don't like is there's a cost to that one. It's like $300 a year. But I want to try something else, see if it works. Just plain old email, or I don't know if
Why don't we just scan the work order and
Text.
email it?
Because the
Or
phones that
text
they
it.
currently
Well, yeah, the
Don't
phone
have
that-
smartphones?
They have the flip phones.
They
They only have
flip
one
phones.
smartphone. That's mine. the meter readers is a flip phone.
Is it
They have
yeah.
to-
No smartphones.
That's
They
the
got-
only,
Get smartphones.
yeah,
And
I think that would
So-
kind
That
of
would
offset the
yes.
cost.
Scan it and text it.
Yes,
And this is where Jim is looking at those individuals who perhaps have a smartphone that
Switch 'em.
don't need one.
Yes.
We can switch them out.
Correct.
Because it's
Yeah.
necessary.
Because
That would
saves
totally
faster.
save
It'd be
time.
faster.
And fuel.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Time,
absolutely.
fuel, and it'd be more
Because towards the end of the
productivity.
day, it'll be like, oh, we had so many work orders because we were so busy.
Yeah.
We didn't call them.
And then have to, yeah.
And I think
Call
it
them
would
has to be-
reduce
Yeah.
the
Right.
overtime because, let's say 4:30 comes around and they get busy up in front, you know, and they're trying to call in an order or try to print it out. By the time my guy comes in, is about maybe 5 or 6 work orders and it goes into overtime.
Right.
So if you want to reduce
Not all the
overtime,
time, though.
I think we need to
Absolutely.
find a way to
Just
get it to them while they're still out there
While they're in
and
the field.
before
Mhm.
4:30, 5, you know.
Mhm.
snap a picture. send it.
Easy. Text, send. Yeah.
We're trying.
I'll get with you on some
Technology.
of those because I'm familiar with some. Do you know if Acela does the mobile app?
No.
Okay, that's
I
where we
want to
want
say that they might.
Yeah, that's where we
Do-
want to
do
start.
they? Really?
That's where we want to start because
Okay.
what we want is for it to be integrated into the system.
System.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
awesome.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Yes.
point.
But
Mr.
I
Ramos.
have
Mhm.
have a little bit of insight on that, so we'll go
What's the
together.
Very
program?
good.
What's the program start off?
Acela, the
Acela.
one
The
we
one
currently
currently
have.
Oh, the one we're
Yeah.
currently on?
If that's awesome. If it,
Yeah.
We want to make sure they do the mobile app. That way, when the
Right.
service order is created, it goes from the phone,
Yeah.
It's
and then
already
they
in
can
the file.
finalize it, and it's
And it goes-
integrated into
sends
the
it back.
system.
That's right.
and
That's
that's what
perfect.
I've been looking for. Is if that's
There you go.
Because
It's already in
otherwise-
play.
Yeah, we've got it. Great.
Otherwise, you're still gonna have to come in and do the manual work order.
Yeah.
We're just trying to utilize
right.
the system that we have
Great,
and try to
great
learn
point,
it.
Mr. Ramos. Thank you. Yeah,
You're
that's amazing. Technology is beautiful. Sometimes. Okay.
There is a little bit of travel in this particular area, and we have cut the majority of our travel. However, because these individuals have to maintain licensing, they are required to have CEs, and that is what that money is for.
Okay.
Moving on to the next area,
Technical service.
if we can move to, yes, technical, 5640 Caesar.
I think that's their software.
Yeah, that's
for
the
their
That's their
software.
portion of their software.
Okay.
But let me, I can double check on
The
The
I think
census, right? The
yeah
census.
the 19th Street, that is the licensing fee, or not the license fee, that's
I
the
think it's just,
no, it's the like what's it?
Technical support?
No, not technical support. Like a warranty almost on handheld maintenance agreement fee. Hopefully, without once we go from from Census to Mueller, because right now we're using two systems. We're using the Census system and the Mueller system. Okay, the Census system is where fee comes from, and that's the maintenance agreement. When something happens to our handheld, it's because it's a computer. If it malfunctions, we have to send it in. Yes, we're paying that, but there's still an hourly fee that we have to pay. It could be $300 to $400.
Right.
You know, so there's that too. I'm hoping that once we get to entirely the Mueller, we won't see this anymore. But that's going to take time. That's
2,000 meters away.
yeah.
Hasn't been,
Yeah, that's it's going to take some time. So you'll see that for a
and that
couple of
even
more
got
years.
implemented way before us, that whole automation, and it still, hasn't been completed, met yet.
That's understandable.
Jumping back real quick, we had, a couple little small numbers here, like office administration was $32. What comprises $32?
I think it's
That's the inspections for the vehicles.
For the
Now
vehicles.
that's
filed
actually,
at the courthouse.
At the courthouse.
that's
Okay.
actually gonna get moved up to vehicle repair and maintenance for the new year.
Okay.
Is that-
Okay, and then the $330 for dues,
They have to pay some,
Their membership.
Membership and
License.
dues for their licensing.
licensing? Okay. And because I noticed
And
that,
there's licenses
There's
and
licenses.
Oh,
certification.
I'm sorry, okay, so y'all have some dues, I can look up what dues y'all pay.
That should be for
TWA.
You know,
TWA,
really-
okay.
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 And then the other one is for the
For licensing.
It's for the actual license, right?
TRMS
Yeah,
licensing?
no, for TCEQ.
TCEQ, sorry.
That's
Sorry,
the
yeah.
research fees.
Too many acronyms.
And then, of course, 5641 is registration and training. That's registration in conjunction with the travel for them to maintain the licenses.
And where do you travel to?
Corpus.
Corpus.
We try to keep it
As close
Yeah.
as
'Cause I noticed
possible,
your-
no overnight stays.
Your travel
if they can
is
come and go one day.
125, which is kind of
Just
small for
Yeah,
us.
we
I was just wondering if
we
you
try
had to go.
We could try to keep it low and.
So you're able to do that in Corpus.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Any other questions, council, for metering? No? Okay.
I do want to say one
Yes, sir.
thing. My department and metering, warehouse department, I think we're going forward in putting these meters, these newer meters in.
Good.
And if we continue to work together, I think we'll get there eventually. In half a day, because I've had my guys after well, one guy, after he finishes his route, if there's not too much for him to do, what I have him to go do is go install meters. In half a day, he can install 12 meters if they're all in the same location and if there's no complications, which most of the time there's not, and if there's, you can get them all in the same place. If he has a full day, I say maybe 30 to 40 meters he can put
Very
in
good.
without.
That's great.
Do you all have a schedule or a projected date when this project will be completed?
I don't think so.
Could you all set out and?
No, we
kind
kind of just.
We're in the beginning stage of starting to sit everybody down to determine, we want to get through budget first, determine if we are going to be able to continue to allocate the monies for the meters first, to purchase them, and then sit down with Joe and with Caesar and Mr. Ramos and determine the best approach to it. First and foremost, not anyone can change the meter. You do have to have the skill for it, and more importantly, the license, correct?
Yes,
Joe? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. The time is now 11:57. We're going to recess for lunch, and time to return would be 1 o'clock. Is that good? Okay. Thank you all so much.